Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another day, and it is Friday. So it's just not just another day. We're heading up, bumping up to the weekend. Thanks a lot for joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always. Looking forward to another great day. Alec Lasley will be joining us. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Jeremy Gray, the newest announcer, taking Chuck Crabb's place at Assembly Hall. I wonder, I don't think Chuck Crabb didn't do football, so I wonder if Jeremy's just going to take over for basketball. I don't remember seeing that, but I'll have to ask him that. And we'll get a special, I don't think we should call it appearance, but what do you call it? A special gem from Kirk Haston from 4 years ago now, or 5 years ago.
A blast from the past.
A blast from the past, our fifth consecutive year of running this. As it started 5 years ago. And today is because it happened on this day 5 years ago, Kentucky Oaks Day, the day before the Kentucky Derby. So we'll look forward to that. A little gem from Kirk Haston. Gets played once a year. Looking forward to that. Tony V checking in. How are you, sir? Tony Stuckey as well. Forrest. Five lefts. Dwayne. Lots to talk about. How about Bijan Robinson? If you're down in Texas, running back, he's you always heard about guys driving around campus in nice cars back in the day. Well, how about driving around in a Lamborghini? That's what Bijan Robinson is going to be doing because he now has a partnership with a Lamborghini dealer there in Austin, Texas. Smart dude. Smart guy. Don't think there are any Lamborghini dealers here in Bloomington. How about the Reds, man? Man, are they looking at potentially the worst season in the history of Major League Baseball? They're 3-22. They're on pace for 142 losses. But can you believe that they don't have the worst batting average? They're hitting 203 as a team, which somehow, some way, the 13-13 Diamondbacks are worse at 200. But my gosh. That should not ever be allowed in professional sports for a team to be that horrible. When that happens, a league has to do something with ownership. Oh, that's great. Tony V. Boom. Man, look at that. How'd you take it off? Put it up.
No, you took it off after I hit it. Name, image, and Lamborghini.
Tony V coming up with a bit. That's funny. NIL, baby. Name, image, Lamborghini. That's quick and funny. That is funny. Oh my. Man, that's just amazing. That's amazingly quick, Tony. Tony V. Got that right, baby. Yeah, the Reds stinking it up. Bijan Robinson's probably doing better than the Reds by himself. Except for poor Joey Votto. I saw someone said, please, they wrote an article, said, just please trade Joey Votto. He doesn't deserve that. Sergio Garcia in the Wells Fargo Golf Open that's going on right now. He threw a tantrum yesterday. He lost a ball, and then finally when he found it, the golf official said it was, you used up all your time. It was too late. He threw a tantrum. And he can't wait to leave. Well, go on and go. Here's some big news, and I can't wait. Looking forward to talking to Alec, Zach, and Jeremy Gray, all of which are going to be on today. But you know that Indiana is taking on Kansas in December as Mike Woodson is trying to expand this schedule of Indiana's that has been pretty weak for a while. So you've had Kansas now. I think this is going to take place a week before Indiana is finalizing a neutral site game against Arizona. How about that?
In
the
Vegas.
Arizona in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand. How about that? A neutral site. This should take place about a week before the Kansas game. So here Indiana has been playing no one, basically. And now they're jumping back into the days of old. Kentucky don't want to play? Fine. Well, I had Arizona and Kansas instead. You talk about two big-time names adding to your schedule. And doing it in a way in Las Vegas. That's getting Indiana back on the map quickly. That's the kind of thing you have to do. Go ahead, John.
One problem is you don't have any marquee home games, though. That's one issue. Now, you don't know what you're going to get for the Big Ten ACC Challenge.
Well, but a
Or-
neutral
or the
site game
Gavitt
is not
games,
about a
per
home
se.
game. The Kansas game is a home and home
That's true. Yeah.
series, so it's just not this year, and that's a neutral site game. Although playing Arizona in Las Vegas is not much of a neutral site
Who did they play in the ACC
since
Challenge
it's only a
last
few
year, and
hours
where?
away. I mean, it's you do realize that Las Vegas borders Arizona, right?
Yeah, of course. Who did they play in the ACC Challenge last year? Why am I blanking on that?
Boston,
Syracuse
I don't
on the
know.
road.
Syracuse,
They're
yeah.
due a home
Lost.
game for the ACC Big Ten Challenge.
Yeah,
And if they continue the Gavitt games, they'll be slated for an away game more than likely.
well, the ACC Big Ten Challenge will give them a good home game, but also is going to give them potentially another big name game. That could be three big time name games. I don't know that a
And
big
4
name.
if you play like a Villanova or somebody in the Gavitt games.
Yeah, is Villanova going to be Villanova without Jay Wright?
Or Creighton.
Um,
Creighton slated. They've done really well in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana definitely increasing their schedule next year, no matter what. And the ACC Big Ten will only add to that. You had Arizona and Kansas. So jumping back up quickly. It's change. It's good to see changes because those are changes that that tells you that things are being done. Things are happening. The Arizona game will be a good excuse to visit his brother for Ross.
Look at that, Ross. You already booking a flight? Go ahead and jump on those early if you want to. Why not?
But Indiana adding to their schedule, so the fans are going to love that, going to Las Vegas. That'll be fun. And if that happens, if that happens a week before, IU is at Kansas December 17th. And if that happens about a week before, that could possibly be going on at the same time as the National Finals Rodeo, which I know that most people don't care about that. But
You'll
I just
also have the World Cup going on still. A lot of
Because-
people don't talk about that either.
Well, what I was saying is because the National Finals Rodeo happens in Las Vegas, is what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
And that it's just odd that would be going on because I used to be out there for that every year, working in the press in the media department for that. But that's the time that will be going on. But lots happening in Las Vegas in December, man. Chris is wondering if Woody will get a game in the Garden. There's no doubt that'll probably happen. Wouldn't doubt seeing
May not
that
be
happen.
next year.
Wouldn't doubt seeing that happen in the ACC Big Ten Challenge at some point soon, depending on who the opponent would be.
Who plays in the Garden in the ACC?
Well, whoever wants to, if it's a good enough game.
Okay.
If you're playing against Boston College, or if you're playing against UConn, or playing against any East Coast team like that, or it's an excuse to play Rutgers, for that matter, is close enough. But just an excuse to be in the Garden. I love it. I've been there once for the Big Ten tournament, and it's just you're in someplace special. Walking around looking at those pictures from, I'm talking about going back to the old days, man. Marilyn Monroe singing "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." I didn't realize that's where that took place until I was there and saw the pictures. I was like, wow. So there's that. But yeah, I think that's going to be give fans even more reason to look forward to next season.
When you also had Trayce Jackson-Davis comment on the announcement yesterday saying, wow, I don't know if that's any indication of where he's leaning toward or if he's already kind of subtly made a decision, but I don't know if you saw that. What do you think that
I don't, it doesn't say anything to me. There's no point. I've made, when people continue to ask me, what do I think? It just tells me they don't listen to me. I've already said what I think. I said what I thought 3 weeks ago, and that is not changing. I have not changed my mind. If I change my mind, I'll say I've changed my mind. I've said he's coming back 3 weeks ago. I was the first to say
I was figuring it would sort of affirm what you're saying, because I was on the side of he's probably going to go to the NBA, and now the more he comments on things like this, the more I think he's just building the anticipation for fans, because that's what he wants, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think he's trying to get that excitement going for when he announces that he's going to come back to Indiana.
Could be. I'm not. That's maybe not. But as far as whether he comes back or not, I have made my opinion known on what I think is going to go with that, and I think he's coming back. I've always thought he was coming back, and I've told you the reasons why I thought he was coming back. Tom hits up, the Reds have no answers in the farm system. That's right. Louisville has no players on that 40-man roster. That's their AAA ball club down there. They're down to that's right. They aren't they in last place? When you're in last place and your AAA team is in last place, that is bad news. Bad news.
I know they called up TJ Friedel from the
cares?
Louisville Bats, but that's not doing anything for him.
They stink. They're the worst team in AAA. They're the worst team in the major leagues, and they have the worst team at AAA, to my knowledge. It's
usually it's the other way around.
And they trade everybody. So what are they going to do? It's not like they have money. They're going to go out and get free agents. No.
It's like Phil Castellini said, be careful what you wish for. Well, this is what's happening now.
Well, I think what most Reds fans wish for is for the Castellinis to no longer own the Cincinnati Reds. That's what most Reds fans.
Did he threaten to move the team or something stupid like that?
He said, "Where are you going to go?" That was like 2 weeks ago. He made an ignorant comment and followed, and then doubled down the next day with something else, something dumb. But Robert Carter says hello. The Truth down in Evansville. How are you, sir? How are the fans? Folks listening on the Ref 97.7.
I mean, some big news down in Evansville, by the way.
Yeah.
They finally got rid of their head coach or something like that. And a lot of rumors speculating about Tom Crean going down there.
Wait a minute. It sounds like you're telling me and then asking me at the same time. I don't know what's what are you? You're telling me or are you asking me something?
I'm kind of telling you, wondering if you already knew. I'm not sure where to approach it. That's kind of why I'm phrasing the way that I'm phrasing.
Well, they did fire Tom Licklider, the former Butler coach, Todd Licklider, which why they fired him, I don't know. Didn't he just come in there last year as a didn't he just step in there last year, or they hired him last year? I remember in the with the Walter McCarty stuff that was going on. You know, he was the 2007 National Coach of the Year at Butler.
Jeez. I mean, I know that was 15 years ago, but.
And now he's fired as Evansville's coach after David Ragland, who was an assistant at Butler now, is looked at to possibly be someone that they're looking at for that. He was currently an assistant to Thad Mott up there, who was retained on this Butler staff. He's an Evansville native. So there's and actually was considered a runner-up to Walter McCarty in 2018, the coaching search. So there's that. Another possible candidate listed by the Indy Star is Tom Crean, which I find to be a joke. That's not. No. Says whom?
Before we get to break, why is that a joke? Why shouldn't that be taken seriously?
Well, who said that he is?
Jeff Goodman. Excuse me. I'm not saying Jeff Goodman is the best person in the world, but he is somebody that said that.
Let me tell you, if you're a Division I coach that has coached at Marquette, at Indiana, at Georgia, and you go to Evansville, and I know that he doesn't have a lot of options because it's think down for him. Why? Just go to ESPN. You'll make double the money. It won't be nearly as embarrassing as going to Evansville. And then if he were to fail at Evansville, now what? ESPN may not even want you then.
That's
hey,
true.
We got to take a break.
Fail at Evansville, you're probably done.
I've gone too long. We got to take a break to get Alec Lasley on, and plenty more. Alec Lasley joining us today. Zach Osterman, Jeremy Gray, and of course the special from Kirk Haston. All happening today here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Brought to you by our good friends at the Courtroom down in Bedford. Don't forget, the Courtroom's bringing you the Crawl Fest, the 4th annual Crawl Fest, sponsored by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. 13th and 14th of May. That's next weekend at the Harp Commons downtown. This year's event, headlined by Hoosier native country superstar Clayton Anderson. Make sure you just go to Courtroom Sports Grill's Facebook page to get all the extra information you need. We're back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Tom Crean to Evansville, that's a joke.
I think a lot of people want to see it, including myself.
Well, a lot of people want to see it because it would be a joke.
I don't think that's why, but I'd want him to do well.
Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about him to Evansville. I don't know. I think he needs a year off. It always does these coaches a wonder if they take a year off after a bad tenure, because then people kind of forget about how bad they actually were.
Like Archie.
Yeah, I mean, and like Crean, when he got the Georgia job, obviously not to the same level that he was once he finished up his Georgia tenure, but there's telling there's a lot of signs that there's just a lot of signs that as a coach you should wait a year before jumping into another place, especially if you were that bad. I mean, Georgia's never been great at basketball over the last 2 decades, but
which is amazing because they have Atlanta. You have Atlanta to recruit, but they haven't cared about being good in basketball up till now. I bet you that starts to slowly change, because it's a hell of a lot easier. Then I should save this, but it's a hell of a lot easier for those football schools with NIL to add basketball, as opposed to a school like Indiana, which is a basketball school, and try to add football. Indiana's effed.
But one thing someone was mentioning about the timing of the firing for Evansville, none of those players can jump in the portal now, right? The one-time transfer.
Well, but I think they, over the last 2 years with COVID and everything, they put in another. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they put in an extra little deadline. They don't give you as much time, but they do give a little bit of a buffer room because obviously that's not fair for the players if they want to go there for a coach, right? Especially some of the transfers. Let's say if they transfer there, and get stuck with a coach that they really didn't want to go play for or anything like that. So, I mean, I don't think coaching changes should happen at this point. That's ridiculous in my opinion. You've had how many months to go over your coaching staff and talk about the future and look at your roster. So the fact that there was a coaching change, over the last few weeks or even honestly in the last month is a little bit ridiculous to me.
15.
Free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, and Feast Market and Cellar, located next door to Southern Stone. Feast Market and Cellar, located next to Southern Stone, offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff. Wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, coffee bar, bread, and pastries, all mouth-watering. Welcome in, please, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Fine. Lots of little bits of info out today. We were talking about the Evansville situation. Todd Licklider, former Butler coach, fired there. Little surprising. The timing, it prevents them from really looking for another job. Kind of puts them in a bad position. It's kind of an odd time for that to happen, but it did. And so Evansville is where they are, which is kind of an odd spot to be right now with the transfer portal happening and everything going. This cannot be good for their program for this upcoming season, I wouldn't think.
No, not good at all, especially at this point in the late spring, early summer. Obviously, they just got a new athletic director, so that plays a little bit into it. But at the same time, we were talking at the break here. I just think there should be a certain point where in the offseason there should not be any firings of coaches. They've had so many months. I know there's a new athletic director, but still they've had a lot of time to not only get a new athletic director, but obviously talk to him throughout the interview process and have some sort of a feeling out kind of procedure of, hey, if we bring you in, what are your thoughts on the coaching staff of this program and this sport and this sport? And, if someone comes in there and says, hey, well, I want to get rid of everyone, that should be a little bit alarming. Obviously you have to make moves. What's going to be best for your university and your program. But, at the same time, I think this one, especially getting rid of just wiping the slate completely clean, is a little bit crazy in my opinion, especially again at this point in the first weekend of May. You usually don't see anything like that, especially with what we just said, the one-time transfer rule, having it up until May 1st to actually hit that as a transfer. Now, again, a few years ago, they did put in place where if a coach got fired or moved on after that deadline, that you would have basically like another month to kind of make your decision as a player. But still, at the same time, a lot's happened in the transfer portal over the last 2 months that it puts these players in a real bad and tough situation for a lot of different reasons. So just difficult to see.
Yeah, and little surprising this time, but it is what it is. And Tom Crean, one of the names thrown out there, which I personally don't see happening. I think that would be, dude, I'm like, just go to ESPN. They would take you in a heartbeat. To me, and that taking Evansville for him would be embarrassing. Not no offense to Evansville. I'm just saying, for a guy that has been at Marquette and Indiana and Georgia and the SEC, and then have to make that, maybe that's where he is. I don't know. But if I were Tom Crean, I'm not considering that job. Not to say that he is just because someone threw his name out there, but that's a job for guys that are up and coming, man. And if that's just like who was the former Kentucky coach that was at Minnesota, and Tubby Smith, and ends up at where is he now? At High Point? He's at a school.
I think he ended up retiring or stepping aside this year too. So
after being at High Point. So you see those guys go down, down, down. That's not what you want for your career.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, obviously he didn't really prove that he could coach in the SEC, and even in the last year and a half kind of that Indiana tenure, obviously struggled with consistency there. Obviously the year off at ESPN did him wonders, and it does a lot of coaches wonders if they take a year off. Obviously you look at what Archie Miller did this year, even what Sean Miller did, right? It seems like everyone kind of forgot about the whole FBI and NCAA investigation with Sean Miller. He gets right back on the horse and goes to Xavier as well, with just one off season just one season without coaching. So I think for Tom Crean, though, he's not going to get, I would be very shocked if he gets another, high major Power 5 job, unless he proves that he can do something at the mid-major, low major level. It just, he's had way too much time at Georgia to prove that he can win even just a couple SEC games. Hasn't been able to do that. We've always known he can recruit. So that's never an issue to get some of these kind of star talent level players for 1 or 2 seasons. But when it comes to over the last 5, 6, 7 years, putting together a really, really good program, not just a good team, he has struggled with that. And so I think at this point, he's done a lot in his college coaching career. It'd be good to kind of maybe just take the year off in general. But at the same time, I don't think necessarily taking a step back and moving to like in Evansville is too much of a step down. I think if you still have a program that wants you, right, it's a great redemption story if you were to go there and bring them back some success, especially after kind of everyone really attacking this program over the last 24 hours here. So who knows if he takes it? Who knows if he's even seriously considering it or seriously in consideration for it? Obviously fun to talk about. Good personality with the media, but at the same time, I think some time off from the sport would do him wonders if he does want to get back into coaching here in the near future.
Absolutely. And speaking of Indiana and their future, in addition to adding Kansas to the schedule coming up this season in December, now it looks like they're going to be playing Arizona a week before them, which is a great addition to this schedule. Indiana's schedule has gone from being pretty, mundane. Now you're adding a neutral site game with Arizona and a home and home with Kansas. That's a big time addition.
Yeah, and it doesn't even include the ACC Big Ten Challenge with,
exactly.
Regardless of what Trayce Jackson-Davis does, Indiana will probably get, a top 4, top 3 team in the ACC. I would guess. Whether that's home or away doesn't really matter. But the fact that you have those 3 and then potentially the Gavitt games as well with the Big East, those are 4 incredibly tough non-conference games that are not only going to challenge you, but really get you ready, especially for a team that has a lot of upperclassmen. It'll be a really good test for them, but also a guy like Malik Renault or Jalen Hood-Schifino, guys that are expected to play big minutes and big parts of the success of this team next year, to get thrown into the fire right away and play against a lot of these really, really talented programs across the country and high major talent within the first month and a half of your college career is going to do them wonders for the back half of the Big Ten. So even if they were to lose, those 4 games, right, against Kansas, Arizona, whatever ACC opponent they have, and then the Gavitt games, let's say they go 0-4 there, it's still going to help Indiana tremendously in Big Ten play But obviously, at the same time, you need to get some of those wins, especially for a team that snuck in by the skin of their teeth there this season to the NCAA tournament.
Not only that, though, with Indiana landing the top 5 class in the country with national names like Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renault, and nothing against the other guys, CJ Gunn and Banks, and not that they're not great players, they are. But these guys were just more nationally known. So with that, with the number 5 class, with adding Arizona and Kansas, Indiana is trying to quickly get back into that level of play where other people saw Indiana, because for too long now you say Indiana and they're like, yeah, they're a has-been, and rightfully so. If you're outside there, there's no reason to think otherwise. But this is to me a way to quickly get Indiana back into that everyday conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is part of the reason why Indiana, even before Mike Woodson got there, wanted to get out of the Crossroads Classic to expand into more of these nationally recognized games and against these really, really talented opponents, because the Crossroads Classic was never something that was going to benefit Indiana. Obviously, as a state, it was great to have those 4 schools in there, but that was a lose-lose situation for Indiana. They never really played a really high-quality opponent that helped them when it came to trying to get into the NCAA tournament. But it also would just hurt them in the non-conference because those teams just weren't as strong year after year, regardless of what Indiana really was. So at the end of the day, this is a great move for Indiana. It's one that puts the program back on that national spotlight and that national level of playing these big time games like Carolina has, like Duke has, like Gonzaga has, in the non-conference and in these neutral site arenas. And having it in Las Vegas, right, is a an experience in itself. Playing a team that's basically going to be an away game for Indiana, realistically, I would think with all the Arizona fans that are out west. Obviously, Indiana travels great, so that's not an issue. But playing in a hostile environment like that too, a week before you go to Kansas is something that I think a lot of Indiana fans are extremely excited about. And should be, especially with the roster that they're going to have coming back next year.
And then not only that, like I talked about how people view Indiana, winning games like that, playing them is one thing, but winning them is another, and winning them does more for you, obviously. Going out and to playing in Arizona at a neutral site, which I told John earlier, I'm not sure how much of a neutral site this is, since Las Vegas borders Arizona. They're a few hours away there. But anyway, it'll probably be the way Indiana travels, that's probably going to be a pretty good Indiana crowd out there to Las Vegas.
I mean, it's going to be a great environment either way. And that's the thing that Indiana has struggled with, is playing in these environments that, even if they're 50-50 or 60-40, right? The majority of these neutral site games that Indiana plays in are 80-20 probably Indiana fans. They need to go out and they need to go venture out west, which obviously they're doing, and play against opponents that are going to see a lot more travel for the away team or for the opponent that they're playing, right? Because they can play in Indianapolis all they want. They can go to New York or Chicago. Indiana fans are going to dominate the stands in any of those 3 locations. So the fact that they're going out west so early on in the season and they want to travel out there. I'm sure they probably had a couple other potential locations for this game, but Mike Woodson has shown that he wants to play against the top level programs out there, because that's obviously how you can test yourself and how you can really see where you rank and stack up against these other teams that are competing for national championships and Final Fours every single year. And the only way to do that, like you said, is not only go out there and play the game, but there comes a point where you have to obviously win the games too. And this seems very similar to what could be of I can't remember which. I think there was the 2015 season, the start of that, when Indiana played Kansas out in Hawaii, and the game that they had out there, where Indiana obviously was still supposed to be good, but I don't think people expected them to go in and knock off a really, really strong Kansas team. So if Indiana, builds some momentum there early on in the season, it could just catapult them to obviously a good Big Ten season, but one that I think a lot of people are kind of itching for now after a full off season of Mike Woodson and a full season of Mike Woodson as well.
And not only that, it besides the fans seeing that Indiana more as a national brand, also now more players are going to see Indiana as a national brand, which has not been the case for the last few years. Obviously, Mike Woodson is changing that, as I said, talking about Jalen Hood-Schifino, people like him, and Malik Renaud. But this goes even further with that. When you're on national TV doing it, when you're out west doing it, it opens up to a whole new audience. And not just, like I said, I'm not talking about just viewers and fans. I'm talking about potential players now.
Yeah, and it opens up like you said, the recruiting, right? Because a lot of kids out west, if they never see a team come out there for a neutral site game or never play out there, right, it does play into their decision making a little bit. No matter what a kid says about not being super close to home, there comes a point where they want to have some family, they want to have some friends be able to attend games that aren't across the country. So this just opens up a little bit more of that national level of excitement, that recruitment that Indiana's trying to get to, which they've pretty much been able to do, Midwest and East Coast and Southeast as well, but really haven't been able to expand out West. And if this is something that now they continue to do with obviously the Kansas game being more out West than some of these other opponents that they would face in Las Vegas, gives them a little bit more opportunity to now go make a pitch at any of these Western recruits and say, hey, we're making an effort to come out there. So it's just another tool that Mike Woodson has in his back pocket that he's already shown he can recruit and secure top talent, even sometimes on a lot shorter of a turnaround than other coaches. But now he just has that extra bit of firepower that he can pull out there for a recruit or a recruit's family.
Absolutely. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Alec Lasley is with me for another segment here. We'll talk about some recruiting, more offers going out for Indiana. Where are they on that? What's going on this weekend and coming up? Back with that and more, brought to you by our good friends at Feast Market and Cellar. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington. Oh, mama. Oh, mama. I was surprised to see a few more offers go out for those 23s, man.
I'm not. They had some both. But the one yesterday was 24. Jonathan Powell, he's playing with Centerville this upcoming year in Gabe Cups. But 23 TJ Power, not super surprised. Still looking for some more help on the wing and scoring and creating. Guy who can do that. So not super surprised. There haven't been a ton of offers in that 2023 class that have really been extended that weren't prior involvements from that past regime. So you're starting to see a couple, which is good, and it's notable.
You're going to lose 4 players regardless next year based on like if Jackson-Davis comes back, 3 if he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean they're every single year you're probably having to plan for at least 4 to 5 guys leaving every single year, whether it's transferring or graduation. So, and also, doesn't hurt to have guys who can now play multiple different positions, which again is what Indiana's trying to do in their recruiting process.
And I remember looking at the recruiting board for 2023. There's a lot of, sometimes I'll go through and I'll be like, that's a cool name. And TJ Power is one of those people.
Yep.
Mike Woodson having his summer camps.
Yep. It's funny. All these people talk about him. When does he have time to just relax and sleep? I don't think they understand. You don't sleep when it comes to college basketball head coaching or assistant coaching.
Yeah, it doesn't.
All right, here we go.
Superstar and Hoosier native Clayton Anderson. We are planning for this to be Bedford's biggest crawfest ever, with the biggest crawfish boil around, complete with a beer garden, stocked with local craft brews, live music Friday and Saturday, and fun for the entire family. Where else can you get all you can eat, listen to great music, enjoy it all on a beautiful Southern Indiana spring night? Let's kick summer off early. For more information, go to the Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Friday here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. If you're heading down to the Derby or in Southern Indiana, Clarksville, right off of I-65, pizza, burgers, beer. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with me right now, and their offers continue to go out for everybody, Indiana included, as I saw more offers out yesterday. Alec?
Yep, they've had a couple. I had a visit yesterday from 2024 guard out of Ohio, Jonathan Powell, who they did extend an offer to. They have another one coming today, Travis Perry from Kentucky, who plays on Indiana Elite. So they've been able to see him a lot of times, but four-star point guard there.
He's from Eddyville.
Yep.
That's down where the prison is in Kentucky. By just so you know, there's a prison there. Eddyville is, I think that's just outside of Louisville a ways, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, like I said, he's playing with Indiana Elite on the AAU circuit, so he's spending a lot of his time in the Indy area. So not too surprising to obviously see him come up to for a visit here today. Knowing a lot of those guys on.
Do you know that I'm going to say Mike Woodson did they offer Reed Shepherd? They never offered him, did they?
Indiana?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, they did offer him. Okay. So
yeah.
They offered him. They offered the kid that went to Louisville, Evans.
Caleb
Glenn, and him now. If they offer him, they will have offered more Kentucky kids scholarships than maybe any Indiana staff in the history of Indiana. That's three. That's also 3 in a year, and I don't remember ever being 3 ever.
Yeah, that's also due to I think the Kentucky class is been a little bit better over the last two years than it has recently. But yeah, I mean, again, this Mike Woodson is not scared of any program, of any recruitment to get involved in, whether or not he's early or late. And he obviously shows you that. But yeah, Jonathan Powell, who got the offer yesterday, put up 45 points in the first live period against Indiana Elite in front of the Indiana coaches. Got an offer from Illinois, actually, I think in the middle of his game in the first live period there at the beginning of April.
How do you get an offer in the middle of a game, man? What, you got somebody come down and call a timeout? Hey, man, we want to give this kid an offer.
Yeah, well, no, you obviously through the grapevines there, they had an assistant coach there. They push it over to one of the assistants on staff, and that's what it seems like it was.
That's kind of weird though to me. I'm like, why do you want to mess somebody in the middle of a game?
It obviously didn't matter. I mean, you put up 45 points and hit 9 threes in that game.
Maybe I guess that's why they did it in the middle of the game.
Yeah, he's a lights out shooter, 6'4", 6'5", can pretty much play any guard position there. Really, really talented with the ball in his hands. But he transferred to Centerville. So he's going to be playing for Brooke Cups, who is Gabe Cups' father at Centerville next year. Also going to be playing, obviously, with Indiana commit Gabe Cups next year at Centerville. So that's going to be a really fun backcourt to watch. Obviously, a year apart there. So we'll see kind of what happens in this recruitment. He picked up an offer from Ohio State earlier this week when he visited Texas A&M last week as well. Has an offer from Dayton too. So his recruitment's really starting to pick up here after some really, really strong showings. But yeah, then you look to the 2023 class and the newest offer there, TJ Power from the New England, New Hampshire area. Really, really talented, kind of not so much a hybrid forward. He played that more of a stretch hybrid forward position at high school in his high school season. But here during the AAU season, he's really been able to show his versatility a lot more. Really, really good with the ball in his hands, creating off of the dribble. Lights out shooter. Been shooting, I think, 44% from three at the Indianapolis live period for the Nike EYBL a couple weeks ago in front of the assistant coaches there. So he's a guy who extremely interested in Indiana. Obviously, just got the offer. But through talking to him, it looks like some of the schools are standing out right away. Indiana and Notre Dame was a big offer for him, and a couple other schools. Boston College is one to kind of watch out there. Still early in his recruiting process, even though he is a 2023 guy, but is looking to take some visits here in June. Dual sport athlete, plays baseball as well. So once his baseball season kind of winds down, look for him to get out to Indiana. I expect that visit to happen, and I would expect Indiana to be really strong in this recruitment if they continue to push, which it looks like through the their very early conversations, they're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, I was just looking up where Eddyville actually is, and it not only is it closer to Paducah, it is close to Paducah. It's down by the Kentucky Lakes out there in far western Kentucky, which you don't hear of kids coming from out there, big time kids, but that explains the Illinois offer and the fact that he's playing for Indy Elite. Wonder how he ended up there with those guys. It's just, I'm always curious on how things happen, how people end up there. Does the state of Kentucky have many strong AAU programs?
I mean, they do, especially, you look in the Louisville area, that's obviously a big one. But at the same time, like I said, there hasn't been a lot of really successful players who have kind of stayed in state for high school basketball in Kentucky for their AAU programs. They tend to go out in the Indiana, even a little bit out in the Ohio area too. Obviously, there's a lot of states that have a lot of really, really good AAU talent in the Midwest. So it's very difficult to keep a lot of these guys in the state when they're playing out of an AAU program. But it's just one of those things that I think he'd probably get more recognition playing with a lot of these other guys on Indiana Elite, even if it is just for 1 or 2 seasons, right? And then transfer or, switch programs, which a lot of guys do for at least a season. So again, still just 2024 for Travis Perry, but really, really talented player. He had 25 against Indy Heat at the Run and Slam quarterfinals last weekend. So another guy to continue to watch. Wouldn't be totally shocked to see an offer come pretty soon from Indiana. He has a lot of high major offers already. So just another guy that they're trying to get there in the backcourt. And a lot of these offers that are going out, right, are to 6'7" guys and really under, but a lot in that 6'7" or 6'4" to 6'7" range, because they're really prioritizing wings, really prioritizing people who can create off of the dribble, playmakers and shooters. And they're going to live and die by that. It seems like in the next 3 to 5 years, when they really get a full Mike Woodson roster of true recruits that he's built and he's developed. But at the same time, I think they're building it the right way, knowing that they need more playmaking on the perimeter, and that's what they're going after.
And then, of course, lots of folks wondering, and they can continue to wonder, but with the current roster, what's going to happen there? And that's just basically one question on Trayce Jackson-Davis, of which that question was yet to be answered, of course. But Logan Duncombe, is he a kid that you think that is going to have the time to get to where he needs to get to? Are we getting to a point to where if you're not producing by your second year, you're replaceable? And I don't mean that about him per se. Just now in the age that we are with the transfer portal and things like that, do you I don't want to use the word give up, but that's not right. But do you look elsewhere if that production is not coming by the second year?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think especially with Mike Woodson and him wanting to at least have a couple guys groomed in the front court here in the future, he knows he's not going to have Race and Trayce past this year if they were to come back, right? Obviously Race is coming back, but in Trayce's situation. So you're going to need depth. You're going to need guys who are going to be able to come in immediately and produce. It wouldn't shock me to see Logan Duncombe get a few extra minutes, obviously, than what he got this season, which was not a lot. I still think the staff made a mistake.
Where are those going to come from, though? And I agree with you, but where are those going to come from? Because they've added more talent. And if Trayce Jackson-Davis were to come back, this team's going to be loaded.
Yeah, they've added more talent. But again, it comes back to what your role is, right? Mike Woodson has shown, even with Michael Doerr last year, you're going to play a very specific role. It could be 10 minutes one game. It could be 30 seconds the next, literally just for a possession at the end of the game. Going to need to be ready to hear your name called. I think having another offseason for Logan Duncombe, he was already young for his age or for his grade coming into Indiana. Really needed to bulk up. But, I mean, he's a guy who had offers from anywhere in the Midwest. I mean, Wisconsin was really high on him. Ohio State, Iowa, Cincinnati, some other schools out in the Big 12 were interested. So, I mean, when you look at his recruitment, really, really talented kid, just not strong enough to compete in the Big 10. But he's a guy that, even the last staff with Archie Miller and his assistants, this was not a guy who was going to come in and produce immediately. I think that's given Indiana the luxury of seeing him kind of sit behind Race and Trayce, and now Malik Renault and Jordan Geronimo, and go up against these guys in practice. He was always going to be a guy where you hit your third and fourth year with him, and that's where you're going to see the most production. And he's going to be a guy who, whether he starts or not in his career, he's going to be a guy, if he stays at Indiana, going to have a role because he can defend the rim, he can rebound the ball, and he has a really good motor. And he's shown a little bit. I think the only shots that he really hit in the limited minutes that he got this year were kind of that high post 15-footer. He has a good shot. He can kind of stretch the floor a little bit, and he's a guy that you would be able to play if you have athletic wings and really versatile forwards. A guy that you could play 4 round one and be very, not only fundamentally sound on the defensive end, but he has a good ability to make plays on the offensive end as well. Just a guy that's really not going to make an impact in those first 2 seasons. And that's why I think the staff did make a mistake last year, not redshirting him. There was no reason to not redshirt him, especially knowing he was kind of a year behind in terms of his development at the kind of Big Ten high major level. And so I think that's going to come back to bite them a little bit. At the same time, maybe they did want to redshirt him, and Logan Duncombe and the family obviously wanted to play, but that's something that I think could come back to bite them if that was not really a decision that the staff wanted to do.
And the NBA Combine invites, when they're starting to trickle out, I think. When do you expect to hear more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the NBA Combine's coming up here in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. So you're going to start to hear names like you already have start to come out. They typically put the list out probably a week in advance. So we're getting kind of close to that here in the next few days, where we'll see kind of a fully put together list. It's interesting because, I really think Trayce Jackson-Davis should get a Combine invite, but at the same time, teams already know what he can do. They may look to just bring him in for individual workouts and not bring him to the Combine, because I don't think necessarily that he's a guy that's going to blow you away with any of his testing. Obviously his vertical jump would be probably up there with some of the better ones, especially for his position. But other than that, I mean, I just don't see, he's not overly long. He's not super, super quick horizontally. And so with some of these testings, I think even if he were invited, I think I may pass that up and just do the individual workouts where I know I'm going to be put in kind of more of a setting for myself to succeed than do what everyone else has to do at the same time. So wouldn't be surprised if he does get one and doesn't want to go and just do the team workouts. Either way, it's going to be one that I think stretches out until that June 1st deadline. Because regardless of what happens at the combine, if he were to go or not, he's still going to get individual team workouts, and that's going to stretch out into the last week or so of May.
Yeah, I'm looking at Sam Vecini from The Athletic, his top 100, and I'm trying to find where he has.
I think, yeah, he's anywhere from 55 to 85 ish.
Right, I know on a lot of different people's, and that normally matters, but a lot of people are I don't want to say poo-pooing that, but not looking at it when Trayce himself has said, hey, I need to go in, the early to mid low 30s. I've never seen that anywhere. So I will say, obviously I've never been in that situation. So who knows what's actually going through, his mind individually here, but it's a lot different to say that going into the pre-draft process. And then you go through a workout and you hear a team give you kind of a commitment that says, hey, we'll take you, at the late 40s, right? Obviously that's not in what he wants to do. But if someone says they're going to take you in the 40s or, late 40s, I think that's kind of hard to pass up, especially for a guy who, like I said, teams know what he is at this point. I don't think coming back to college, he's going to develop a jump shot. I really don't. Other people may disagree. I know you and I are kind of indifferent and indifferent when we put together kind of the pros and cons list of coming back to college for him. But I just don't think if you get that kind of a commitment, coming back to college is really worth it. We'll certainly find out, man. Make sure you give Alec Lasley a follow and check out everything he has at thehoosier.com. Alec, I hope you have a great weekend.
I appreciate it. Enjoy it. I assume you're going to be watching the Derby, right? You have any Derby picks?
Man, I have not gone through that stuff yet. I've got to
Cyberknife. Take Cyberknife.
Cyberknife.
There it is. John says Cyberknife.
And now I have to, because if it wins and I don't take it, then I'll hear it for the next 6 weeks. Alec Lasley joining us here on it. Who's your pick?
I haven't looked through it. I was hoping you would give me some good picks.
Cyberknife.
I'm going with
Cyberknife.
That's the winner. If he loses, it's on John.
I'll take it.
It is. Hey, we got thanks a lot, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you give him a follow. Alec, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, guys.
Zach Osterman from Indy Star joins us next. Stay tuned right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda. Man, we got behind. Good morning, Zachary. How are you, sir?
Oh, you're muted, Zach.
How are we doing?
There we go. How's your week going?
Fine, just ready to wrap it up, ready to hit the weekend. So
I hear you. I never did ask, how did the little 5 go? Because I know you're involved in that. Are you still involved in that?
Yeah, we got wrecked out on lap 199. So
damn.
Yeah, it was a tough day. It was not a pleasant day. So, but we tried. We ran our race and wound up where we wound up. So,
was talking about
the old college try.
J.R. Hildebrand yesterday.
I mean, the reality of Little 5 is one team wins. You get one day. There's no, you have to be comfortable with the idea that, it may never happen for you. You know what I mean? So, because you get one day a year and only one team wins.
Just got confirmation, Jim, from Jeremy Gray, 950.
Oh, yeah,
well, he got the link. Sometimes whenever we have guests on that aren't regulars, they act like they don't have the link, and just want to make sure
Gotcha. Yeah, I chatted with him earlier. Just chilling this weekend, Zach?
Yeah, I mean it's Mother's Day, and it's Mother's Day, and it's graduation.
I tell you what, people down here with it being Derby in the Louisville area haven't even mentioned Mother's Day.
Yeah, I mean I understand that, but honestly, the other thing for us is it's graduation weekend, and stuff just gets so crazy around graduation. You know, just try to swerve it as much as possible until it's done, and then
the students are gone.
You know, yeah, I mean, just like the restaurants are packed, hotels are jammed. Not that we're going to hotels, but you know what I'm saying. So, just downtown is full of people that aren't aware of the one-way streets and all that kind of stuff. So,
all right, here we go.
Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, joined by Zach Osterman of the Indy Star. Zach, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
Well, as a Reds fan, it's miserable at looking at 3-22. But do you know who 2 of their 3 wins came against?
I do. Yes, I do. It was the first series of the season.
Yeah, crazy. Talked about this yesterday against the reigning World Series champion, the Atlanta Braves, and now they've won 1 game since. They're on pace for 142 losses, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the comments that I think their owner made early in the season that stuff just doesn't sit well with me. The whole whether it was their owner, their GM, whoever said, you know, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. It's just like
the son of the owner.
Okay. And it's just sort of, I mean, it's just sort of this idea. It goes back to this idea of like, who do sports franchises really belong to? And it's like, obviously, okay, you paid the money. Technically, the asset belongs to you, but it is still a community organization. And you know, to treat that community with such contempt is just very, I find it very, very gross, I guess.
I agree with you, man. And the Reds are not getting any better anytime soon, but the Castellini's in charge, it looks like. But other things going on, Indiana adding a game with Arizona, it looks like, and a neutral site game in Las Vegas as they continue to bolster their schedule. They've added Kansas. You've got the ACC Big Ten Challenge already there, but adding these big-time games, man, this is really turning things around for schedule-wise for Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Mike Woodson is doing what he said he would do, which is go easy his first year, not wanting to, you know, ask too much of, as he likes to call it, his ball club, before they had time to really be comfortable with him and what he wanted to do and all these different kinds of things. But on the other hand, you know, he said before long, I want to be playing. I think he actually name-checked Kansas. He said, I want to be playing the Kansases. I want to be playing in the big events. You can't get into Maui on a whim or battle for Atlantis. That stuff's planned out years in advance. But what you can do is go seek out these opportunities. Now, my understanding is the Arizona game is not finalized in any way yet. So, like, I think, like, I'm confident it's going to happen, but you still got to work through finding TV partners and making sure that, all the money is equitable, or is kind of good. Everybody's good with how the money's going to get divvied up, and, who pays for what and who brings the refs and all those different kinds of things. But it does just kind of go back to this idea that Mike Woodson laid out from the beginning. This is what he wants. And I think, too, if there was any doubt in his mind, I think, the way the selection committee probably looked at Indiana's non-conference schedule last year really changed it for him and made him feel like, okay, we're getting out of the Crossroads Classic now. We need to go find something better, something. I mean, and I always liked that event. Selfishly, I always liked having an event close to home. I thought it was a great atmosphere. The building, it was a great atmosphere in the building, but it just never did enough, particularly for Indiana specifically once they lost the Kentucky game. It never did enough for them on a schedule. And stuff like this is, in a way, I think people would be surprised, like there's maybe how thin the gap is between how much the committee would give you credit for beating Notre Dame in Indianapolis as opposed to like losing in overtime in Vegas to Arizona, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that Indiana, obviously getting back into these bigger games, I talked to Alec about it earlier, it gets perception is reality a lot of times, and people perceive Indiana outside of Indiana as being a has-been. And to get back into those conversations of Kansases and Kentuckys and Dukes and all that, you have to be playing those teams and playing them competitively. And that hasn't been the case here for a while, but that is something that Mike Woodson is changing quickly and doing it on a national scale. Having a game in Las Vegas says a lot.
It helps with recruiting too.
Absolutely.
And not just because you can talk to kids about you're going to play Kansas or you're going to be in Vegas. I mean, listen, the Big Ten does not have the best reputation in the NBA. Like it just does not. Talk to NBA people. They will tell you that, yes, good players come out of the Big Ten and there's some good programs in the Big Ten, but there is also still more than just a perception that the Big Ten is a place where some guys can't develop some skills well enough because games are allowed to be played too slowly, too physical, too packed in. Well, you can counter that by saying, yeah, but you're also going to get to play Arizona. This is what Mark Few does. Like Mark Few plays his conference schedule effectively in November and December. He loads it up with tough games so that nobody can look at recruits he's pursuing and say, do you really want to go play Pacific at 10 o'clock on Thursday night in February? He can say, yeah, but look what we're doing all through non-conference. You're going to get the opportunities to play the best players on the big stages. It's going to be nationally televised. It's not going to be something NBA teams can miss. And you're going to get the chance to go up against other guys that NBA teams are going to be evaluating as potential lottery picks, first-round picks, second-round picks, which means you're going to get a chance to prove yourself. And this just helps balance some of that out. And the more you do this, if you're doing the job right, and again, listen, all this ultimately still boils down to you got to win some of these games. If Indiana goes to Kansas and Arizona and hosts UNC in the ACC Big Ten Challenge next year and goes 0-3, well, yeah, it probably won't help a lot. But long term, if you do stuff like this, it sets a different expectation around your program. You use it to recruit better, to challenge your players more, to push them further. You win some of these games. They have success. They go on to the NBA. The next round of recruits say, oh, okay, there's a path to the NBA through Indiana. That's how this works. And it takes time. You can't bake a cake in 5 minutes. Like there's going to be an amount of time where you just got to put it in the oven and hope you mixed it right. That's kind of where Indiana is a little bit with these things, but you can't do it without challenging yourself in these ways.
Yeah, and also I thought that the Big Ten was looked at a little stronger than it was last year because I thought Indiana was solidly in after beating Michigan and Illinois, and found out that they weren't solidly in, that had they not beaten Illinois, they would not have gotten in. And I was a little surprised at that. But the results of the Big Ten, especially the last couple of years in the tournament, they're not boding well for themselves either. The conference is not succeeding in the tournament. forget about winning a national championship. They're not even doing well in the tournament itself as college basketball goes on to maybe a different age.
Yeah, I mean, I think even more directly, the message on Selection Sunday for Indiana was what you did over the course of a whole season is going to matter a lot more to us than what you did over the course of 72 hours. Like, that was great. You went to Indianapolis, rousing comeback against Michigan, dogfight against Illinois. You know, you were a breath away from beating Iowa. That's fantastic. But you know what? They kind of did the same thing to Iowa. And Iowa would probably sit here and say, well, we would have done better in that tournament if you hadn't handed us a tough 5-12 from a Richmond team that was well coached and playing with confidence. But it was kind of the same thing where the committee was saying, it's great what you did in one weekend, but we're also factoring what you did over the entire first 2 months of the season, first 3 months of the season. We're noticing, you know, from Indiana's perspective, how few road wins you have, how rarely you challenged yourself when you had the, you know, because in Big Ten play, the schedule is what it is. Everyone always understands that. But you can control a lot of elements of what you do in November and December. And Indiana chose to take the path of pretty much least resistance. They didn't do anything they didn't have to. And then, you know, I mean, obviously we can sort of make the argument, well, does a tougher non-conference maybe toughen you up for a better conference? Does that make you better for the NCAA tournament? And Tom Izzo would probably sit here and argue it does. Tom Izzo's famous for playing difficult non-conference schedules. Tom Izzo's obviously also the most successful Big Ten coach of his generation by some distance. But one way or another, I think from Indiana's perspective, that the main message to draw from Selection Sunday was we need to see more in November and December of you trying to challenge yourself at the highest level than we need to see you just having one really good weekend in March.
I agree with that 1,000%. The NBA Combine invites are starting to trickle out now, as that will happen in a week and a half, 2 weeks. That will pretty much give Indiana fans the answer that they're probably looking to for certain. Whether or not, if Trayce Jackson-Davis does not get an invite to the Combine, it's highly unlikely he will remain in the draft, I would think, but that's not for certain. Nothing is for certain because there's only so many invites.
Right. I mean, first of all, if he's not invited to the Combine, my understanding has always been that there's some elements of the pre-draft process that you kind of have to be invited to the Combine to then participate in. So that would maybe also clarify his decision-making a little bit. I also think, I will say, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this without sounding like I'm trying to talk like I'm really cool and tapped in, because I'm not. But I have talked to some people I know around the NBA. They would be really surprised if he doesn't get an invite. They would be very surprised if he's not on that list. They think he is the sort of player that, you know, he's certainly in, you know, fringe, somewhere in that nexus between getting drafted probably in the second round and trying to land a good two-way contract. And guys like that, really, much more so than the guys that we all think are consensus top 10, certainly top 5, you know, the Bancheros, the Chet Holmgrens, like those, you know, even like a Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey maybe participates in the Combine, or maybe he doesn't participate in parts of the Combine. He'd rather save some of that stuff to show individual teams in workouts. The Combine is really there for guys like Trayce, who maybe he goes in and he tests like crazy and he plays really well and he shows some jumpers, you know, some ability to stretch out his offensive game. And then he can get into some individual workouts with individual teams and show some of that stuff too. And that's when his stock can grow. I would be pretty surprised if he's not invited. I do agree that sort of the Combine and the immediate sort of post-Combine process is probably where you're going to see his decision making sort of crystallize. I do think, at least again, talking to people in the league right now, he is very much on that cut line between maybe he's a second round pick, maybe he's a two-way guy, but maybe he's also a guy that can get enough in NIL to make one more year of college worth it. You know, I would be surprised, given the deals he has, if he's not well into six figures already. And a two-way deal can pay you anything from like 75, 80,000. It depends on like basically where the NBA sets the rookie minimum. And then I think the G League contracts started at 75 recently. I think they may have either gone up recently or be going up very recently to like 80 or 81 or something like that. But you make the G League rate when you're in the G League. You make the NBA something around the rookie minimum when you're in the NBA. You can only be in the NBA for a certain period of time on a two-way contract before the team has to put you on a full contract. So the point is, you can max out your two-way earnings, I think, somewhere around $400,000, $450,000. But that's if you totally max it out. You can also spend most of that time in the G League and still make. Listen, I mean, I'd love to make $75,000 a year. Like you're still making good money, but it's not. You're not making so much money that maybe you can walk away from some of these NIL responsibilities or some of these NIL commitments. So I think he's going to be one of those guys that's right on that cut line.
I like to be like Bijan Robinson from Texas, the running back from Texas, signed a Lamborghini deal with a Lamborghini dealership there in Austin.
That does sound nice.
It's not bad. It's not bad. He's going to be the big man on campus for sure. Zach, man, I hope you have a great weekend with the kiddos. It's one of those weekends. There's not a lot going on. So this is one of those times where you get to relax, hopefully, and just chill out with the family.
Thank you, sir. I hope you have a good one, too. Enjoy the Derby or whatever else it is you get up to this weekend.
Hopefully, I'm going to be staying in Bloomington, hopefully, but we'll be looking forward to it. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us as always here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jeremy Gray coming up next, all brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. Cheryl Sizemore. Make sure you reach out to Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with Jeremy Gray right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting...
Hello, Mr. Gray.
Hey, good morning.
Or I should call you Mr. Black.
Since your screen is black.
Actually, my cam should be on.
Check if go into, let's see.
I'm looking
go
at
into the
settings.
settings on StreamYard. If you can see them in the oh, there we go. Oh. As soon as I just saw you switch it, it looks like there may be that your actual external camera might be off, like outside.
Yeah, you know what? Let me get something else going here.
That's fine. If you need to step off and come back in, that's fine.
Yeah,
Step off. Step off. Step off. What is this, Seinfeld? Step off, Seinfeld. What was that? He said, step off. What was that? That dude, remember he was hanging out with the guy? He said, step off. Stupidest stuff.
We'll just go old school.
He is the man behind the mic.
That's right.
Oh, man.
Jeremy, if it's not able to fix, if you want, you can go back to that little bubble and just put a picture of yourself in that bubble.
Okay.
That's probably more trouble than I would know how to do that.
Yeah, if it is too difficult, then don't worry about it. But
it's not letting me do it on my phone. I was going to do it on my phone for you.
Oh, okay.
That's weird.
How's everything else going?
Things are going well, man. Things going okay for you guys?
Yeah, going
Yes,
great.
sir.
Going great. I'm ready to not do something this weekend, to be honest with you. I'm happy to not be going to the Derby.
No, I know. It's you know what? I'll flip to the other side here, see if this works better. I'm killing you guys.
Oh, there we
look
go.
At that. Look at that.
I'll just go to the other side.
Perfect. And here we go. We got 20 seconds.
Look at him. He's on time.
There we go.
Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Friday, and that is always a good day, man, and makes it even better. We've got Jeremy Gray, so it's not a Gray Friday, but it kind of is, but it's a happy Gray Friday as Jeremy joins us from Indiana, the new voice of Assembly Hall, I guess we could say, but you've known his name for quite a while. Jeremy, how are you, man? Welcome.
We're doing well. You know, though, I'm kind of ready for the weather to turn a little bit. Like next week looks like it's going to be like 85 and gorgeous, but I'm a little over the 58 and damp.
I've been waiting for a month, man. I've been ready for a month for this. It seems like it's been like this. But Jeremy is the Senior Associate Athletic Director for Strategic Communications, his official title. But he also over the Cuban Center at IU. But also you'll be hearing his voice a lot more frequently as he will take over for Chuck Crabb officially beginning next year. Those are big shoes to fill. Not that you don't already have a big enough job, but now those are some big shoes, man.
Yeah, you know, I always think of the movie 61, where they didn't like Mickey Mantle for 10 years for replacing Joe DiMaggio. So I'm thinking I'm no Mickey Mantle, and you know, but I am following Joe DiMaggio. So we'll see how the fan base reacts.
Are you going to keep I'm assuming you're going to keep the sophomore because it seems like it's added into you've kind of been able to adopt it in a way that does not seem cheeky or cheesy. It just seems like it fits right in.
Well, I think it would be a nice nod to Chuck.
Yes.
Obviously, I'll deliver it in a much different way, but I'll make it 3 syllables, I think, going forward.
It's a must-have. But like I said, you did it in a way that already that you can tell that it's homage, and it seems to bring it adds a little something. People seem to like it. They like it.
You know, he did it well for 46 years. Why screw up something that's been going well?
That's my next question, man. So are you going to be able to do this for 46 years?
No, and actually the gentleman before him did it for 45. So I think I'm the third person in the history of the invention of the microphone to do public address announcing for Indiana basketball. I don't think I can last that long, but hopefully I've got a nice 25-year run in me and happily pass it off to somebody else at the end.
So you're only the third person in over 90 years to do this.
Yeah,
that sounds like being I don't even know what that sounds like being, because there's nothing, I don't know if there's anything else that even comes close to that.
No, it's unbelievable. And Chuck has been extraordinarily gracious. He was gracious at the end of the year. You know, he came into my office and just said, do your own thing, you know, as you're subbing. You don't have to do an imitation. It did touch me that you did the sophomore thing, but make sure you make it your own. And then he sent me a really nice note earlier in the week when it was ultimately announced that I was going to be doing it going forward. And, you know, honestly, I didn't have really any intention of doing this. But in the last couple of weeks of the season, some of the feedback, was nice. And Scott was asking me to do it. And frankly, it was about the second half of that second women's basketball game in the NCAA tournament where it's going back and forth. The place is going crazy. And I'm like, this is kind of fun. So, after that, talked to my wife and ultimately decided that it would be something I'd want to do.
You got to be there anyway. So it's not like you're asking your wife for permission to be away more than you already have to be. So you had that going for you.
I did. It's 40 games between the men's and women's games. I mean, it's a large commitment. It's one that you can't call in sick for unless you're really sick. But I'm excited to do it. I go to the, most of the women's basketball games. I'm required to be at the men's basketball games. It's actually just 4 feet over from where I normally sit for the men's basketball games. So I'm really, really excited to dig into it. And, as the end of the season rolled along, it kind of grew in my mind as something that, I'd be willing to do.
And when you consider the men's and the women's, that is a commitment. 40 nights. If you think about it, you're already working. And if I had to be someplace 40 other nights, that would be hard to know that not one of those nights could I plan to do something else. That if anything else in life comes up, I've got to put that off. That's nuts.
No, well, you know, I don't want to make it sound like, you know, coal mining or
no. I'm just meant to commit.
But it was a commitment, and you know, I did have to talk to my wife. I've got, you know, a 15-year-old and a fourth grader, and you know, they've got their own activities and things that you want to be there for, and just wanted to make sure that I wasn't screwing up the important things in life by committing to these 40 nights. But we figured that we were there for most of it anyway, and that we'll find a way to work it out. You know, the cell phone's a beautiful thing. They can record, you know, Jonah's occasional basket, or, you know, Zoe doing well in a competition or something like that. So I could watch it later or communicate with them. And frankly, the kids got a real kick out of it at the end of the year too.
Tony does bring up a good point. Did the guy before Chuck, was he using a megaphone to start out with?
No, he was straight microphone the whole time. And Chuck, you know, in his note that he sent me earlier in the week said, you know, for the first couple of months, you know, he went through all the McCracken years and the early Bob Knight years. So he was associated with a ton of success that, you know, Chuck had to carve out his own way in the early going, and wanted to offer his support for me. As you know, there will be people who will miss Chuck, and rightfully so. He's an absolute icon. And frankly, my goal at the end of the year was to have no one deflate my tires in the parking lot after he came, because I wasn't Chuck. And I at least passed that test. But yeah, no, he did not. He was not a town crier or on a megaphone at the beginning. I think Mr. Dawes, you know, was straight up on the microphone from the mid 1930s on.
Who does football, and why have a different person doing football and basketball?
So the person who does football is Rob Lauer, and I think he does a nice job, and he's really made it.
He does awesome.
Yeah. Chuck did it for 25 years or so. I think people don't realize this about Chuck. He had huge responsibilities throughout the department. I mean, he was a one-man keychain and fuse box. Like, he's the only guy who knew where a lot of this stuff was. So he had a huge responsibility outside of the public address work. I also think, you know, with that, you know, that they found somebody who provided a new voice in football. And Rob's actually been doing it a long time. I think he started in the Jerry DiNardo years, and he's kind of carved out his own niche in football, and I think he brings a lot to the table that way.
He does. The fans love him. He does a great job. It's nice to hear a different take on it, and everyone have their own style of doing things. So I was just curious as to that. I knew that, but because you always hear that different voice, and it's just always to try to get a glimpse of who they are behind it. He's kind of an unknown figure. You have been around because of what all you do, of what your job entails. At least I see you around and what I do. Maybe a lot of the fans don't get to, but I do, because you work, like I said, at the Cuban Center and with the SIDs. So we get to see you a lot more. The fans, they see you, but not always know who you are.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the reasons I was a little reticent to do it, because I kind of like not knowing who I am. And, you know, I was in broadcasting for a long time. I did, you know, play-by-play at Notre Dame, and then did some play-by-play here and some sideline work for the Big Ten Network. And I teach a sportscasting class here on campus. So I've got some experience doing it, but it's been a while. And, you know, it was something that I had kind of not moved on from because I didn't love it, but moved into it in an administrative capacity, and that's more of a behind-the-scenes role. I really hadn't thought about, you know, becoming the public address announcer here, but I was the guy down the hall who could do it when Chuck retired mid-season. I ended up liking it. Scott asked me to do it. Got nice feedback from the players and the coaches themselves on both teams. And frankly, there was a former player, you know, we're remaining confidence, who actually said something that really resonated with me. They said, you know, when Chuck announced my name as in the starting lineups, it meant a lot to me, and it's a big part of an athlete's experience. And you've been around for a long time. You love the place. You know us. You love the athletes. It's important that whoever does this is somebody who really cares about the place. And asked me if I would do it, and I was genuinely flattered and touched by it. And then, frankly, that second half of that women's basketball game where it was going back and forth, and big shot after big shot, I'm like, this is a good time. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. So then, I talked to Scott afterwards, and I said, Scott, I know that you asked me before, but I think I'm willing to do it.
Well, familiarity always makes things better, especially when fans they like things that they like things that they like, and we have all come to know that. Are anything that since you've done you did a couple of the men's games this year, obviously filling in for Chuck there at the end. Anything that you're thinking about adding in your repertoire for next year that fans can look forward to?
Yeah, so there are three, I think, iconic sports brands in Indiana. This is no disrespect to some other schools or to the professional franchises, but I call them like heirloom programs. One of them is the Indianapolis 500, one of them is Notre Dame football, and one of them is Indiana basketball. And this is something that people's great-grandparents cared about and rooted for. This is a generational type passion. And people could talk about recent success or whatever, but this is something that goes back generations. And so you need to have a respect for the building, a respect for what has come before. I'm going to bring a more contemporary style and sensibility to the job, I think, than what Chuck did. I've always said that Chuck and Bob Shepard, who was the public address announcer for, I think, 65 years for the New York Yankees, they might be like on a 1 on the scale, where a WWE announcer is a 10. I'm going to come in at about a 5. I'm going to bring, a little more volume to it. I will definitely be more of a homer, but Chuck's stately, classy, regal approach is something that, commands respect. And I don't think me becoming some sort of, carnival barker and announcing 3 while the other team is completely dribbled down the court and has already gotten off another shot while I'm still saying 3 is necessarily appropriate for the building. But definitely going to bring some juice to the starting lineups. And I think people will listen at the end. I said the same thing for both sides. When they would score a basket or when Indiana would score a basket, I would say the same thing, but I just did it at a much different volume with a different level of enthusiasm. So I'm going to be somewhat journalistic in the way I describe things, but I will definitely be more fired up when Indiana scores a basket. But I think it's important in that building to respect that building and not become, an over-the-top thinking that I'm the show.
And it sounds like it's going to be fun. And as we've talked about a lot of things today in regards to Indiana basketball that are going to be more fun. Indiana, you've got a home scheduled with Kansas already. We saw that now they're looking at adding a game with Arizona. That's not completed yet to our knowledge, but that's in the process of being added. So a lot of excitement coming with Indiana basketball next season already. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot more with you behind the mic.
I talked to the person who replaced Kaywood Ledford at Kentucky a while back when I was still doing play-by-play. And I was like, when did they accept you? And he's like, well, they accepted me when we won our first national championship. So I am so excited. I mean, we're looking at 2 teams that are going to probably be top 20 teams next year. It's the best era of women's basketball by a factor of 10 in the history of Indiana women's basketball. And it feels like Indiana basketball is starting to feel right again on the men's side. And so I might be jumping into this thing at the right time. It wouldn't be bad to go 40-0 in my first year as the PA guy.
Boy, howdy. Has there ever been a time that Indiana women's and men's basketball were ranked at the same time? Because I know there's not been that many times the women's team program.
I believe it wasn't all that long ago. And it was like maybe a week or 2. But yes, there have been times where they've been ranked at but not a lot. Not a lot. But I feel we're gonna add to that week total next year. And I am really excited about it. Love both staffs. I think fans are really connecting to both sets of players too on a personal level. And Woody gets the job. Obviously there are things that fans would have liked to have turned out differently, so far this year. But, you sit there and you're talking to him about his camp, and he's like, oh, yeah, we're having camp. That I went to Bob Knight basketball camp. This is a big part of my upbringing. We're gonna totally go over the top and make this great for little kids. And I'm like, this is a person who understands the presidential nature of the Indiana head men's basketball job. frankly, going out and throwing the first pitch at that IU baseball game at Victory Field the other day, and then
threw a strike.
All the players
threw a strike too, baby.
He gets the job here.
Yeah, and he threw a strike, and he enjoys being a part of it. And I agree with everything you're saying. The women's and men's basketball, they could go all season next year ranked together. I mean, Indiana men's program obviously expected to be better next year than this year, and I think that they're going to start the season ranked. Obviously, the women's program, they could possibly be, if it's even possible, they might be better next year, as crazy as that is to say. I never thought that I would say that after last season's team with who all they had, but Terry Moore has done a hell of a job in replacing the ones that she lost.
Yeah, she needs to start writing her Hall of Fame speech, because she's going to make the IU Athletics Hall of Fame for what she's done with that program. But yeah, I think they're going to have, two highly competitive teams next year in the top third of the Big Ten, with the chance to compete for the Big Ten championship in both. It's not my job to go lay out expectations for the teams. I'm not the sport administrator for either program, but it's an exciting time, and success tends to breed more success. And you see a nice first year, obviously with some ups and downs with the men's program, but it has resonated on the recruiting trail, and they're getting players, and people are wanting to be a part of it, and it's really an exciting time.
You may not be able to answer this because of just not want to, but I have said that Grace Berger, I think, is the best women's basketball player to ever play at Indiana, and she's not finished yet. But she is just the best all-around women's player that I have ever seen here and that I have ever known of at Indiana. And I think she's going to go on to do great things once she's finished at Indiana. But I just saw someone throw a comment up about her, and I'm like, gosh, dang it. I love watching her play.
I was the play-by-play voice for women's basketball here from 02 through 14. And I don't want to hurt the feelings of some remarkable women that I traveled with, all that time. And obviously, the George Washington type figures for that program, I think would rightfully be Amanda Cahill and Tyra Buss, and they set a ton of records. But if you talk about all-around skills and what they can bring to the court, I don't think there's ever been a player as versatile and as good top to bottom as Grace Berger. And, it's funny. I was texting back and forth with Tyra Buss in the tournament last year, and I'm like, yeah, it's a little chippy. And I was at the game. I went to San Antonio for the game. Like, yeah, it's getting a little chippy here. Grace is John back and forth with them, and Tyra Buss goes, if I were Grace, I'd be John back and forth too. So even the great ones know how great Grace Berger is.
She's a baller, man. She's just fun to watch. It's fun. It'd be fun to watch them again next year, and it'd be fun to watch them with you behind the mic, man. Looking forward to it, as well as the men games as well. So congratulations again. Good luck this summer as you prepare to take the reins, I guess, for good.
Yep, I'm going to buy a lot of Hall's Mentholyptus and some green tea, just work on the vocal cords, and we'll be ready for action next fall. And there is no replacing Chuck Crabb. There's just succeeding Chuck Crabb. And hopefully it's a great environment for our fans, for next year and years to come.
Looking forward to it, man. I can't thank you enough, Jeremy. I appreciate you, and thank you. Have a great weekend.
Hey, thank you.
You bet. Jeremy Gray joining us here, the new voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, PA for men's and women's basketball. You'll be hearing whenever you're in a Simon Scott Assembly Hall. We got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting.
All right, remember to do Hoof-Hearted here.
Oh, well, it perfectly saved it for the last.
For the end,
for last.
Yeah.
Archie Miller lighting over the hump. That's all? At Rhodey. Oh my God. Oh my God. Do you know what IUBB? Do you know what Rhode Island's Twitter account is?
What is it?
At Rhodey MBB.
Wow.
What's up, Lil Rhodey? Somebody has got to start Lil Rhodey, man. Come on. What's up, Lil Rhodey? Let's see.
Lil Rhodey.
Oh, dang it. Lil Rhodey. What's up, Lil Rhodey? LILRHOD. Why?
Little Rhodey.
I don't think there is just a Lil Rhodey.
Time to start a burner account, Jim.
How do you do that?
You just add an account or something, make a new account. I don't know how it works.
Somebody must have heard me because no, this is from 2010. Lil Rhodey is already an account, man.
I bet it has nothing to do with Rhode Island men's basketball.
It's from Massachusetts, and the first picture Lil Rhodey retweeted. He has 21 followers.
Yep.
Damn.
See?
Come on, Lil Rhodey. I need this account, bro.
All right, here we go.
Hey, this is John, the producer with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It's Friday here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at BB's Marketplace. BB's Marketplace is your local meat shop, steakhouse, and caterer, no matter where you live. Some of the best custom meats around. BB's Marketplace has the largest variety of in-house made products as well. And you can just reach out to them. Visit bbsmarket.com. Order online. They'll send you the steaks, whatever you want. Like 20 something different kinds of sausages. It's crazy. I grilled, I did grill yesterday, but it wasn't this weekend. Maybe this weekend. Get to doing some grilling. Hopefully I'm ready. Let's see. Jennifer's going down to see Snoop Dogg this weekend. You got the Kentucky Derby this weekend, tomorrow. Today is the Oaks Day. I originally planned on going down there to do the show from there, but it's raining supposedly down in Louisville all day today, so was not looking forward to that. So I opted out. John, I hear you popping in.
No, so sometimes when you hear me clicking, it's me deciding if I should say something or not, and then I'll unmute.
Well, I hear that's what I'm saying. I hear you popping in. I'm like, well, what are you gonna say something? What are you gonna do?
Sometimes I'm still gathering thoughts, but I'm not sure it's raining yet. But I know by noon we're supposed to be getting some storms in the area. So,
which means I could have come down and done the show and left and been fine. But that's a lot. You know, maybe we'll do it next year instead. How about that? I don't have a favorite too. I have not looked through it yet.
So the actual favorite, I know earlier I mentioned Cyberknife. That's not the favorite. That's just my favorite based on name alone. But the two favorites are Zandon and what's his name? Epicenter with 7-2 odds. Epicenter has, and then I believe Zandon, not Xander. Did I say Xander the first time?
Zanzibar?
Zandon has 3-1 odds, I believe, right now as the two. Excuse me, and those are the two favorites.
Yeah, I've got to look. It's, you know what I always like to do, would do for the same thing I always do. I either bet big and not by big amount. I mean, try to hit the big bet, either the trifecta or the superfecta, which is 3 or 4 horses, picking the first 3 or the first 4 horses. But you box them and you do all that stuff and it ends up costing so much. So yeah, yada, yada. A couple of years ago, 5 years ago, actually the first year did this show. It wasn't Indiana Sports Beat at that time, but we started doing the show 5 years ago, actually. And that's actually at Churchill Downs doing the Thursday and Friday shows out there. But Kirk Haston, a good friend of the show, came on, and I had turned it into an Indiana-themed derby kind of a deal, and wanted to have everybody just give me their picks of what they wanted for the derby, and had several people that came on. Coach Bill Mallory was with us, and he was one, and several others. And Kirk Haston, they all gave us their derby picks, and I get to Kirk, and this was not planned out in any way. This is what still amazes me to this day. Had not had a conversation with him about what he ends up doing. And I don't know where this starts, but he asks if he can pick his own horse's name. And I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Is that part on this, John?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So he asked me if he could pick his own horse's name, which I'm like, well, yeah, I actually can. I'm thinking, well, how are you going to pick a favorite in the Derby if you're picking your own horse's name? But I'm like, whatever. So this is our friend Kirk Haston, and this is how his Derby favorite pick went 5 years ago.
Well, the Derby favorite is, of course, Who Smelt It and Dealt It. But this is, I think it's because of this heart has such a big heart, and it's going to be it's not going to be the favorite, but it'll be one that gets a lot of action. His Hearted, Hearted, and we're just going to really pull for him down the stretch. So we'll see how this goes.
How do you think it's going to turn out?
Well, I think it's going to go something a little like this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful day at the Derby. We're getting ready to get set, and they're off. Well, Hoof-Hearted is really thinking it up out of the gate, but hopefully they'll pull it out down the stretch. And, man, I really am disappointed. Or Hoof-Hearted is pulling out. It's going past Charmin. Hoof-Hearted is coming down the stretch. Hoof-Hearted is picking up ground on Who Smelt It, They Dealt It. Hoof-Hearted. Unbelievable. It is unbelievable. These people are throwing it's toilet paper. Hoof-Hearted wins.
Oh, man. It was Justin Kalen you heard laughing in the background, our first producer. Hey,
that's who I was curious. I was going to ask you who that was with you.
Justin laughing. Yeah, besides myself, because we were like, are you kidding me? That's a duly elected official in Tennessee, state representative. Just kidding. I call him the governor. I keep teasing him. I think he's going to be governor one of these days. And when he does, that's never going away. But that's kind of funny. But he's a character. I mean, if you think Kirk Haston's not he is one of the most unique individuals I've ever met, because he is so kind and nice, but off the wall funny like this. I'm serious when I say we had zero conversation about that. I had no idea it was coming, and I thought it was hilarious, and that he had the ability to laugh at himself like that. It was just awesome. But you can imagine what he was like as a teammate, what he would have been like to have as a teammate. He's one of the
if not the best player on the team, but yet he's probably the funniest guy, probably the nicest guy on the team. What a great individual he is. But, I play that each year and we laugh, but at the same time, he's one of the just truly the greatest people that I've had the fortune of meeting. Funny and nice all at the same time. Kirk Haston, he's an elected official, state representative now for, 3 years down in Tennessee, where he's from. Lobelville, I think is where it is.
We need to get Kirk Haston a horse, whether it's in the Derby or just in one of the Derby Day races named Hoof Hearted.
I would not be surprised if that has not been the case already in the past, but they do pay attention to horse names. Now, trust me, because they know that people try to be funny. But the greatest call of all time, you'd have to pull this up, was the one about the ex-wives. She knows everything. She doesn't know anything. It was something. It was something along those lines. It was a horse call. Try to Google that. Great horse calls with the horse names. She doesn't know anything. She knows it all. I think that
was for the Derby or just a random.
No, this was a horse race. It was not the Derby, but it was a real race because the call was fantastic. Because the announcer's calling out these names. She doesn't know anything. She knows it all. It's on the inside. She doesn't know anything. It's coming on the outside.
Here we go. It's my wife knows everything versus my wife knows nothing. Give me 1 minute and I'll see if I can get this pulled up.
This is an actual race call that took place at some time. This is probably 10 years or maybe 15 years old. I don't know, but it actually happened. It was hilarious. But it's Derby weekend, so throwing some Derby themes in there, some funnies.
Here we go. I have the looks like, I believe this is the back stretch, so we'll see how this goes.
Doesn't know on the far outside. Little Miss Macho is fourth. They're into the stretch. Lady Mutata, my wife knows everything. Center of the track, the wife doesn't know. Into the final furlong. My wife knows everything. The wife doesn't know. They're 1-2. Of course they are. My wife knows everything in front. To the outside, the wife doesn't know. My wife knows everything. The wife doesn't know. My wife knows everything. More than the wife doesn't know.
Oh, my gosh.
This Tallahassee was third, and Morningside Heights was fourth.
See, you thought I was lying. That was a real
I couldn't believe I could find it, to be honest. I didn't think it would show up.
That thing's famous. What are you talking about? Famous. That's how he came up that quickly. So, but it's
someone says it sounds like it should have been an Abbott and Costello skit.
That's exactly what it sounded like. And the fact that they were 1-2 for real, that's crazy. ESPN is for sure going to give us UNC, two coaches returning to their school, number one team in the country to. Oh yeah, so is he talking about to watch next year?
I've got one more Derby horse name comment on one of the Derby horses this year. One of the names is Barber Road. I do believe that's probably a play on former Derby winner Barbaro, but in a more joking fashion. He has very bad odds.
I was going to say, is there a relationship though? A lot of times in the lineage.
Yeah, I didn't do that much research into it, but I remember reading the name out loud, and I was like, that sounds like there could be a connection in some way, shape, or form to them.
If you're there you go, Forrest. Tell them 69 viewers currently and only 4 likes. Hit that button, baby. That's right. Everybody, for those of you that I know that we are great folks on the RAF 97.7 and WBRO 89.1. But if you're not listening there and you're catching it on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button, please. It does help us a tremendous amount. And thank you, Forrest, for pointing that out. We appreciate you. But yes, please, once you, like right now, it's easy. Just hit the like button, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Like, boom, like. It's that easy. We appreciate you. It's been a great week. It's been a fun week as always. It was a fun day. Need to get the temperatures up, man.
done with the rain. Next week, hopefully, it's going to be a whole different deal. We're going to come out of this weekend and heading towards, you've got the Crawfest next weekend down in Bedford or up in Bedford, depending on where you are. Don't forget about that. That takes place at the Harp Commons in downtown Bedford next weekend. So looking forward to doing that. You've got Hoosier native Clayton Anderson headlining that. It's Friday and Saturday, though, so you can be there both nights. Crawfish boil, all you can eat. Looking forward to going down, being a part of it. And then we've got the Indianapolis 500 this month. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you.
1 minute.
Didn't see that earlier. I appreciate you, Tom. I appreciate every one of you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all more than anything. Thanks to Alec Lasley. Thanks to Zach Osterman. Thanks to Jeremy Gray. Congratulations. And thanks to Kirk Haston again. We'll thank him again. Thanks to John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here, and we make it fun for us each and every day. We really appreciate you guys. Go and like and subscribe on Facebook or YouTube rather, if you haven't already, and give me a follow on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. Appreciate it all. Other than that, go have yourselves a great weekend. And until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.